Alrighty then, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded the season 23, the season 13. We've concluded the LEC Winter Split regular season. That is how we call it. We've had some banger games, we've had some banger results, we have some banger groups. If you guys want to look for a preview of the potential matchups, I'm going to do that later in the week. This is going to be just a rundown of what we saw today, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the teams that have left the league and the continuation. We're going to do the tier list, all that jazz, talking about the new patch in a different video. You'll find that in the future. Of course, we have to cover that. All in all, let's start with BDS versus Team Heretics. BDS versus Team Heretics. Ash first pick, we like that. Varus Heimerdinger, Mercer was good on Heimerdinger in the previous game, so why not? Zeri Azir, BDS decided to drop jungle. Interesting, you know, I'm a big Azir enjoyer, so I respect it. But I'm also a big Sejuani enjoyer, and they had potential room here to experiment a little bit with their AD carry pick and drop AD carry and see what kind of happens to it. Because you have some options here, like you could play Ezreal, you can play Zeri, you can play Jhin. You know, Jhin is perfectly fine, I think, if you have Azir Seju on your side and the enemy jungle, you know, is a champion that maybe is not going to do so great, you know, and be a little bit squishier, you know, that could be an option. But all in all, you go Zeri Azir, Sejuani gets matched, and then they drop jungle and pick Vi. You know, Shio has been fantastic when it came to the Wukong, right? And that's a question of BDS, you know, now in the final game, they're looking to explore a bit more. I think that this game was a very competitive game, but the flaws of Team Heretics showed through and through. I think Team Heretics is a team that only knows how to play in one gear, and that is to kind of group and to hope that their composition is going to kind of outmaneuver the enemy. I think their play around side lane is very poor. I think that, you know, often I feel like when it comes to the mid to late game, they only have one gear, and that is to group and hope that it works. And I think in cases where their compositions allow them to do so, where bleeding a little bit of farm is okay, and they have compositions that are death balls, I think this is how Team Heretics have made it through. But this, of course, didn't really last here in the BDS game. I think eventually we had, you know, this game just concluding. I wasn't impressed by Ruby's Silas play. I wasn't impressed by Ebby's Renekton play. And all in all, I think that Team Heretics, you know, coming into the next best of 3 segment, I think they are looking like one of the weaker teams together with, of course, Astralis. I think it's quite telling that they were picked over Koi, because Koi still have a much higher potential ceiling than Team Heretics have shown so far. I think that, you know, my main hope for Team Heretics in terms of what their ceiling could be, I thought that this was a team that would be able to figure out their like basically reach their potential quicker due to the experience in the team. But it is a team that I feel have a rather low ceiling in terms of what I've seen so far from both Jack Spectra and Ruby. I think Jack Spectra definitely has some room to grow. I think we saw a very good game on him on Draven. I think that shows, you know, a good amount of diversity, and I'm curious to see that side of him more. I think Mercer looked good on the Dinger, but that's a champion that is going to be kind of deleted on 13.1.b, and that is going to be the next patch that they play on. In all, you know, BDS and the team fighting prowess, you know, I have to admit this game was so long ago. this day was such a party that a part of me is just blanking on what kind of happened in this game. Tenki, when you're editing this video, just let me check out what happened in this game. I need to remind myself what happened in this game, guys. There was things that made it contentious. Team Heretics managed to find some kills. I think the early game, you know, Sejuani was dominating. She was making a lot of blunders and mistakes. But all in all, Team Heretics, when they are against a composition that is stronger than them front to back, they eventually play macro poor enough that they have to face that fact. And it's very easy to choose your fights against the likes of Team Heretics with what we've seen so far. Next game, Koi versus Astralis. Koi versus Astralis, you know, Astralis tried to throw everything on the wall here. Here, Koi versus Astralis played for securing their position in the playoffs. Zeri was first picked, Astralis follow up with Yuumi Sejuani, which I think is perfectly fine and standard, and then a follow-up of Lulu and Sylas. Sylas has a schedule, then you denied it from Dayor, that's perfectly fine to do. I think that picking Azir here is also not bad, because you know that the enemy AD is going to be Sivir. Of course, there might be an angle where the enemy might go Twitch, which is, of course, understandable, but all in all, Sylas, Sejuani will deny from Dayor, I understand it. They drop jungle, Koi, and I think here you have Maokai, you have Elise, you have Wukong, you have Vi, perfectly fine to drop jungle. In a lot of games, what we see is a lot of lanes, like a lot of teams ban junglers 1, 2, 3. You see Maokai out, Seju out, Elise out, and in those cases it's much more important to actually pick jungle 1, 2, 3, unless you have the balls to play Udyr. Or maybe sometimes Trundle, right? I think these champions are still really fucking strong, and I wish to see them more in more spots than against Cassio and Gwen, right? Sivir gets locked in, Maokai Renekton 4-5 ban. Renekton is a go-to for Shigenda. Shigenda loves the Renekton. Jax and Irelia is banned, which obviously signals that Koi is looking to blind pick Gnar or pick something into Gnar. Yone gets picked on 4 as an answer into Sylas, is something that Dior has played a lot, and then the final follow-up, they pick Kled on 5. Irelia ban is specific for, of course, Finn, and Kled is slammed here because of the synergy against Sejuani and creating volatility in the game. It's not a good ult for Sylas, and, you know, you have a composition that kind of works well with Yuumi, works well with Sejuani. The issue for Astralis is that there's synergy with Seju, like with mid jungle and top 2v2, and to create snowballs through those lanes hasn't really been their strong suit. They are in a position where they have a relatively stable lane bot, and the most that you can do in this lane is to go even. Both junglers are just pathing into bot, and I think that you know, Wukong will eventually find timers to get Divine Sunderer and then eventually win out on those 3v3s on bottom side. Here, Astralis are being put in a draft where their bot lane don't have the most amount of agency in the game. Maybe in a world where they maybe just went for Twitch and just tried to put all of it in the Kobe basket, maybe something could have worked, but Twitch is just not so strong right now. So it's hard to demand, right? The 1, 2, 3 answers are perfectly normal and something that you look for, but I think that this kind of puts Astralis in a position where, you know, they were exposed to the situation where they had to create 2v2 leads in mid. They had to create 2v2 topside leads, and this just didn't convert in the game. I think the most crucial mistake was when Yone, Sejuani, and Kled posture for topside dive, and Gnar could just freeze the wave in front of the turret. They wasted so much tempo and time, and then Sylas got to push the wave, he got to base, and then the issues led into Koi having the Rift Herald. Wukong scaled. Eventually everything led to this big fight on mid lane. Dayor was very late to that fight, and also Sivir didn't flash the Sylas abilities, so she died. Plain and simple, if you're behind with a composition with Yone, Kled, Sejuani, Sivir, Yuumi, all you can really do is fight and go forward. You don't necessarily scale better in this game, and I think that Koi played a solid game. This game didn't demand much, and I think that you know, the fact that Koi could take it easy and take it slow, I think is still a positive sign for Koi, because Koi in previous weeks definitely played way too fast, way too loose, and took fights when it wasn't necessary, and they were always scattered on the map. This was, generally speaking, a decent look for Koi, I would say. Next game was the biggest, most anticipated game of the day, because this is the game between SK and Fnatic. This is the game that would, of course, lead into a potential tiebreaker for Fnatic if they win it. This is a good summary of what the big problems of Fnatic is and was. They ban Lucian, Yuumi, Elise, and they just have to leave something open. They are afraid of Markoon's Elise, which is completely natural and normal. Maokai is banned, and SK in this situation, they can just first pick Sejuani and not give a shit. They know that the enemy is not going to pick Caitlyn Lux. Caitlyn Lux is incredibly strong here because Yuumi is out, Ashe is out, Lucian is out, and The only real answer you have into Caitlyn Lux is something like Varus, but Varus is not doing so well, and I think Caitlyn Lux can definitely be competitive against it. So here, already, SK blue side have the stronger jungler. They pick Sejuani. There's no Caitlyn Lux answer. There's no answer at all. Like picking Kate, like some teams would be able to pick Kate Varus as an example. Here they went for Wukong, which is already in theory weaker against Sejuani, and then they blind pick Xayah. You know, this reeks of desperation, right? It's like they were trying to look for an angle of Xayah Rakan, but Rakan is unplayable into Caitlyn Lux. And then already in 1-2-3, I think SK just completely outdrafted the opposition. I don't know in what world of Xayah you ever want to play into Sejuani Caitlyn Lux. I think even if you Xayah R, the Sejuani R, there is a big frozen field that is left on top of your forehead. So that level of counterplay is not even good. And you will never ever be able to trade autos with Caitlyn Lux. And I think that in this lane phase, Leona should have died when she face checked the bush level 3. Then later you had the situation where Xayah, they finally got level 6 and they killed Lux, and then Reckless fucked up the flash. And then there was a situation where Caitlyn had Gale Force and kept her flash, and Reckless died 1v1. I think also in this game, you know, they picked Aziron 4 and Humanoid. This was probably the weakest performance from him. He seemed completely out of it. It was a very, very tough game to watch, honestly. They continue with Nartalia for 5. Wunder just tries to pick Camille, you know, tries to find the champion where he feel like he can have some agency and to carry. I think that, you know, Wunder tried definitely to find some picks to bring them back into the game, but SK was super, super far ahead already from early, and it was just altogether very rough to watch. We had a moment where they killed like Talia on mid, and that was fine. I didn't spill any Actimel, didn't spill any yogurt, so that was, you know, a big plus for me, improvement for me personally from the previous day. But all in all, I think this game here kind of shows Fnatic's whole season. You know, players that are struggling, players that are frustrated, players that are tilted, players that no longer believe in the project that they are working on, and they are trying to pretend, they're trying to fake it. They're trying to piece it together with a draft that somehow is going to give them some sense of identity. But the issue is that identity is, imagine an ID card, you go to the shop, you try to buy beer when you're underage, and it says fucking McLovin, and on the picture it looks it just doesn't look like you at all. And the equivalent is to try to create that identity in the context of the current meta. It's like if you don't play the range champs, and if you don't have positive momentum, or if you even don't have motivation or hope in your project, then it's just a slow and painful death that we saw of Fnatic. I hope you guys, as Fnatic fans, I'm sure there's some of you lingering still due to my history at Fnatic. I hope that you guys can support your team. It wouldn't be fun to win in an organization or win with a team if the risk of losing and the pain of losing wasn't so severe. So I hope you guys can send your good messages towards the team. And I think for those who hope for changes to come in this business, you don't survive if you don't adapt. And I'm sure changes are going to be made. Maybe the changes that you are hoping for are not going to be made instant, but all in due time. And that's all that can be said. Next in line, we had Mad Lions versus G2. You know, I think this is the last time and the most appropriate time for me to use the question, who let him cook? I think at this point, this meme is so dead. This Kingdom Hearts picture with fucking Woody and Sora. Like, let's just murder this meme for all and for good. But G2, who let them cook? So you have Sejuani first pick is answered with Kindred and Varus. Once again, G2, they show every game, every damn game, they show that they are refusing to play Yuumi. They're refusing to play Yuumi. Why are they just don't want to play Yuumi? I think Mickey is allergic to playing Yuumi. He lost against us last year playing Yuumi. Maybe just hates Yuumi. They don't play Yuumi. Whenever G2 leave Yuumi open on red side, they get sister-fisted. It is a big problem. It is a big problem. The main thing, right, is that Draven is out. And the issue with the draft of Mad Lions... So if you look at the Mad Lions G2 draft, and then you look at G2 versus SK draft, they refused to pick Yuumi 1-2. And they were in a situation where they had to slam Varus because they couldn't find, you know, if they blind pick Kalista 1-2 or blind pick Nautilus, Mad Lions is going to adjust and pick different champions. So they have to blind Varus and then pick support on 3, which is a very, very big problem. They should have just banned Yuumi. They lost 2 games straight because they got completely outdrafted and didn't have a good answer into Yuumi. And they 1-2'd Varus and looked very bad doing so. This time around, they went for this Talia support, which was completely garbage. Last time, they went for the Lulu, right? And already, Sejuani, Yuumi, Sivir against Kindred, Varus, Talia, you just have the worst front-to-back composition. And the idea of Talia is to put down your rocks and then Yuumi can't jump between people. But honestly, who cares? Like, I can play Yuumi with my toes and I can easily, you know, just stick on one champion. Like, Yuumi is so strong in this game. All she needs to do is press R and E. She doesn't even need to fucking press her W at all. So G2 just straight up ran it down in draft, I think. It's like, you know, I made this analogy on stream. Like, someone was very excited in chat about how many flex picks they have and how smart they are. But it's very equivalent to that Indiana Jones movie when the guy is like throwing with his blade, you know. You know, his blades are fucking flying. And then all of a sudden, you know, Indiana Jones, he just fucking shoots him, you know. Because it is just way easier to play Mad Lions' draft. It's literally the equivalent of just fucking shooting the guy who is fucking making all these crazy moves with his blade. So Talia gets picked, and then the Karma on 4, so we don't know yet where everyone's going. Ooh. Victor Renekton gets slammed. Here maybe you can pick something different than Renekton, but it's perfectly fine. Doesn't matter too much. Synergy with Sejuani, they go for it, fuck it. And then Swain on 5. So I get it, you know, they have a composition where they want to have turbo value from the Kindred ult. But the issue is, Mad Lions never need to commit. There is no threat of engage on the enemy side. There is no threat at all. They can just fucking throw their Yuumi ult. They can just throw boomerang, Victor spells, and they can kite back. They have Sivir ult. They can disengage any fight. And there's never going to be a situation where this Kindred dream is going to be fulfilled, where Swain is draining 5 people. Everybody's low HP. What happened? Wow, Karma E is shielding everyone out of the Kindred ult. Wow, Varus attack speed fully stacked with lethal tempo. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. But I'm sure G2 know too. I'm pretty sure G2 know too, but it's very fun to see that comparison. G2 had a big issue when they didn't ban Yuumi 1-2. Like 1-2-3 on red side. They just needed to do that. Yuumi is luckily on 13.1.B completely deleted from the game, so that's going to be a big positive for G2's red side, because they, of course, free a ban. Imagine a world here where they are the ones to pick the Yuumi themselves, and I think it would have been cool. But all in all, you know, G2, best of one, they're vibing. Okay? Once again, I repeat, Sejuani went Aftershock this game, which I think gave them a little opportunity. I think you should go for sure for Phase Rush. But if you just look at this game, the fights were literally unplayable for G2. It's like one laser, one Q of Sivir, and then it's like no one can really tank it. Swain is a champion. The Swain is a champion. Like he's a glutton. Okay, he goes into the shop and he wants to buy every item. He wants to have Deathcap, Rylai's, Mandate, Zhonya's, Liandry's. He wants to buy every item. And then he ends up, if he commits to one direction, he's going to lack in a different direction. This is the problem of this champ. You buy Rylai's into Damage Mythic, oh, you're lacking in some department. You're always lacking in some department that makes this champion so incomplete. All in all, I think Swain has some spots where it's decent. Against Victor, Sivir, Yuumi, definitely isn't it. You're praying that Renekton and Seju are gonna run it down and int it, but these champions already providing CC is good enough for Victor and Sivir to wrap you up in a neat package, swallow you whole, and then shit you out. G2 failed here in the draft. Maybe, Little conspiracy here, okay? Tinfoil hat on, okay? Tinfoil hat. Tinfoil hat. Maybe G2 wanted to be 4th place. Maybe this was a strategy. Maybe. But I doubt it. I doubt it. We continue to the banger of bangers. Vitality versus XL. Honestly, I wish words could describe this. XL probably played their best game of the season. Vitality probably played their worst game of the season. And that says a lot after the previous day's performance. Vitality, I think in a world where they didn't have Photon, this team would have lost a lot more games because Photon is clean with it. My man buys white shoes, keeps them plain white for fucking years. Doesn't go outside one time, has some raindrops go on them, and then they turn like yellowish, grayish, you know what I mean? You know, Photon is the cleanest. My man's Mr. Clean. He's that bald man on that bottle that is right underneath your toilet bowl that you use to swipe, you know, and fucking use the brush to remove these shit stains that your team is leaving behind in the game. He's Mr. Clean. Photon, fantastic player. Neon, my man, needs to wake up. 2 Zeri games, Caitlyn games. My man has like struggled so much. Neon is not looking like the same player on his previous team. On his previous team, maybe he was the kind of thing, you know, when he was a big fish in a small pond. Maybe the pressure wasn't as heavy. You know, I'm just speculating because I don't know. But Neon is not performing as we are used to see him. In the past, my man was, you know, he was the cleanup crew. You know, he was the guys, you know, when the office is closed down, he came in with his loudspeakers, you know, he played some Russian Boshka Bas Kolbasir, some music, you know, and he would clean up. But the fact is, my man's fucking eating in. Every moment you see him posturing forward Zeri Yuumi, you think in your mind, you can easily picture, you've seen Zeri's carry these moments and it just doesn't happen. He gets caught, he gets CC'd, every spell just fucking lands and he dies. A quick death. And that's so strange. There's going to be a big liability for Vitality. Big liability. This is something that needs to be cleaned up if they want to be the winter split champions. Because if you look at Vitality, if you begin to isolate them as a team that is going to be, you know, Photon or die, that becomes much easier to prepare against. Perks had a decent game on the tally, I would say. I had a decent game. You know, sometimes in some of the games we've seen so far, he makes like weird mistakes. But I think Perks is the type of player, you know, that definitely adjusts himself to the situation he plays in. And I think the deeper you go in competition, the more reliable Perks becomes. So this man has enough credit. You know, he goes into if he comes into my, you know, arcade game hall, he would have like so much credit in all of the games. He would just be able to play all of it, you know, because I trust the man. You know, he's just earned enough credit in my book. Another thing to mention, you know, I am a bow enjoyer. But the last 2 games on Vi that he played were kind of disgusting. Kind of horrible, honestly. Very bad. Looked very European. Not so good. Need some cleanup there. As we say goodbye to XL, you know, as we say goodbye to XL, they could have ended this game, man. They could have ended this game. It's like, oh man, they could have sold boots at any point in time, bought an additional item. Rise could have had Lich Bane. They could have threatened end. It's like there was one moment where it's like they are TPing into the base, and then somehow Vetio just fucks up the ult on the minions. He misses the minions with the Rise ult, and then there's one moment Gragas is TPing, and then Targamas just misses the E on Gragas. It's as if XL forgot how to win. It was a very sad display because they had a decent start. They managed to get sold. They managed to get some Nashers. They definitely capitalized on some of the shit that Vitality threw at the wall. And then it ended in in a fashion where Rise got caught on mid, and even there, when Rise got caught on mid, Pi could just swim over to the Nexus and look for an end. That was the play, but instead they based and they tried to defend, and then Gragas ended up body bopping the Nexus. Patrick as well, you know, he flashed, so he cancelled the Jax TP. You know, there was, I think Excel probably had, you know, I think if I'm Doctor Strange, okay, I'm Doctor Strange, I'm like a budget Doctor Strange, I can only see like 17 different futures because I'm budget, you know, I don't have that gem, you know, I'm fucking working on a budget. There was 16 ways they could have ended this game, and they managed to fuck up all of them. And the 17th dimension was opened, where Photon is just bonking their Nexus. So this was a very absurd game. God bless, okay? God bless that the teams didn't need to play a tiebreaker after this one, because this game ended 23-20 or some shit. It ended at midnight, and then you would have the group draw. And for some reason in the group draw, they just completely, they just kept all the players there, which was insanity. If we look at the conclusion overall, you know, we have two groups, just to bring you up to speed. Vitality was the highest seed in group number 1, or A, if you prefer letters. Vitality chose Team Heretics. They could choose between Team Heretics and Koi, and I think it makes sense. I think Team Heretics is a very one-dimensional team, and Koi is a team that can definitely ramp up, and they've shown very high highs, especially when you come into a world where you play a new patch. The new patch will be very good for Koi. Yumi is already out. Caitlyn is becoming stronger. Jin is becoming stronger. Some champions that they really enjoy are becoming stronger. Malrang, I think, is a strong player, and I think Koi have been warming up. We saw in Shigenda's interview, right? He was talking about how his bottling was inting a little bit and they're warming up. This team didn't practice so much in the off-season and started off very late. So I think Koi is a team that you don't count out. Vitality versus Team Heretics. I think Vitality is going to slam them, but anything is possible in a world where a new patch comes in and stirs things up. SK versus Koi, I think, is going to be a delicious matchup and a true test for SK. They've won a lot of games off of the Yumi matchups, the Lucian matchups, and so forth. What is hiding behind those doors if those champions become banned? Another layer to this is it's best of 3, and it's going to test the endurance of the players and also test the ability of the players to adapt. So it's very exciting. On the other side of the bracket, or the other group, Mad Lions chose Astralis over BDS, which is perfectly natural. G2 versus BDS is going to be a banger matchup. Can G2, you know, is there a situation where G2 keep inting drafts? You know, is that a thing? Because now it's like some people telling me, yo, G2 are just trolling and they know it. But what if it doesn't stop? What if it doesn't stop? Could be crazy. But stakes are on. I think my choices for who wins are completely natural. I will think about this and let it marinate a little bit more. Finally, on Fnatic and XL, people are going to ask me, you know, Yamato going to join Fnatic? What changes are going to happen? You know, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, leave the situation be. It's like if I consider that rejoining Fnatic is going to be under very specific circumstances, you know, like this is not going to be in my mind, and I don't think it's even in Fnatic's mind, if I'm going to be completely honest. But who knows? Who knows? XL and Fnatic, for sure, I can guarantee that they will rebuild. I can guarantee it. I can completely fucking guarantee it. There's no way these rosters are going to put themselves through another split. There's no way. Because this split for them was pure suffering. And those scars burn deep. Very deep. You need a dynamic change. You need a change. You need a change up. What changes? I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. Of course, the situation is very close to my heart, and I have way too much information to even speculate, because I just know a lot. So, format, massive success. Let's be honest. Format is a massive success. In terms of entertainment, I've never been so entertained. This LEC split has been fantastic. This format is an absolute banger. It raises the intensity for the players. There's no room to fuck around in the split at all. And we are now heading into a best of 3 segment. And we had such a dramatic best of 1 situation where everything kind of shifted between each week and we had matchups over matchups on the same patch. Fantastic. And now we get rid of BO1s and now we get to see these teams face off against each other. New patch, but with a lot of valuable information about the teams. So it's going to be super exciting for me to break down each matchup and how it's going to look like. I'll be breaking down the matchups one by one, player for player. Boom. It'll be fantastic. It'll be a gorgeous video. You guys are going to love it. Boom. And then it's going to be another one with patch breakdowns. Boom. You guys are going to have all the content on this channel. If you want to check out the videos or like, let's say the games of today, you want to look at a specific game, that is going to be, all of it's going to be uploaded on my YamatoCannon TV channel. To all of you that stick around during the stream and watch the YouTube content, thank you so very much. I appreciate all of you. This has been so fun for me. So fun. I'm enjoying myself super much. And I am excited to continue. So thank you very much, guys.